Bitcoin is one of, digital assets. It's a digital asset I've been obviously interested in. And, for digital assets to actually have a long-term future as assets, as investable assets. Currencies is a different thing. I think eventually you will end up in a world where every country will have its own digital currency and will control its own digital currency. But if you look at digital assets as investable assets, you have to have some kind of predictability in price movement. And what Elon Musk has done undoubtedly is he's used his profile and his, influence to, I would call it pump and dump schemes. So he's used social media and his influence to manipulate the price of Bitcoin. And you can't do stuff such as, you first under the radar screen buy 1.5 billion US dollars of Bitcoin, then announce to the market that you've done so. So obviously the price of Bitcoin shoots up, but then to push it up even higher, you announce that you're going to accept Bitcoin as tender for buying Tesla cars. Then within a month, reverse your position, then sell some of your holding. And this is where he tweeted saying he only sold 10%. Well, 10%, if you started with 1.5 billion and that 1.5 billion maybe today is 7 or 8 billion and you've sold 10%, it's a hell of a lot of money you've just made out of nothing. And then tweet that, you will no longer accept the price, the Bitcoin for Tesla cars, and that you've sold some of your shareholding.
Someone like Mike Schuster has warned us a couple of years ago already about Bitcoin. What is your opinion about this? He called it the latest Ponzi scheme.
Look, it's not. I don't think it's a Ponzi scheme, but I think it's, I think it's a speculative investment asset. So, when I talk about speculative, which doesn't mean that there isn't a demand for it. So, look at casinos. How many people go to the casinos and are very happy with the concept of playing roulette and playing black or red? Lots. And derive a huge amount of satisfaction from it. So there certainly is, to me, Bitcoin is a little bit of that. You'll invest in Bitcoin, you don't know if it goes up or if it will go down, but you're happy with the experience. And, this is not your long-term saving strategy. And I think there are plenty of youngsters or younger people, maybe younger than my generation, who are using Bitcoin for that and derive, enjoyment from it. And potentially, if they were early in the game, have made some money out of it.
So do you think when it should be better regulated, like most other financial systems?
So I think that there should be more regulation, and the reason why there should be more regulation, or at least there should be formalized investment vehicles which protect you. It is the fact that right now Bitcoin, apart from the being question mark investable asset class, it obviously is also used for illegitimate money exchange. So money laundering, payments for services of dubious nature. So if one could regulate and take it away from that kind of dark net sphere, that definitely would be in the interest of the people who are actually just investing for their own gains and for own pleasure. It would make pricing more visible. It would mean that there's less likelihood of exchanges being cracked and hacked, and money being stolen, or owners of dubious exchanges running away with all the Bitcoin. So when it comes to these kind of novel asset classes where lots of money has piled in, if it was on the fringes, you don't care, but it's no longer on the fringes. It's actually a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So in that space, to have a multi-trillion-dollar industry completely unregulated is ridiculous. You need regulation.
Because as I understand it, when something like this happened, what Elon Musk did, if something like that happened at the JSE or Wall Street, he would have been in big trouble.
Gone to jail. Jordan Belfort of Wolf of Wall Street fame went to jail for exactly that. It's called a pump and dump scheme. And, you know, look, it's a question mark whether, and I think that's why he responded to my, because I actually gave, you know, a couple of interviews and that got translated into an article, and, you know, some US website, Twitter account tweeted that article, and that's what he responded to, defending himself. You know, my comment on all of this is that when he drove, and he personally, through his actions, drove the price of Bitcoin, which is currently trading at around $30,000 a Bitcoin, but he drove it up to 60. People bought, youngsters bought, you know, believing in him. And then a lot of youngsters have lost money, which they could not afford to lose, when that price went from 60 to 30, again, based on his actions. So when it comes to losing people's money, there must be accountability. And it's not beyond, you know, the US markets are regulated by SEC, and potentially SEC is looking into this already. I mean, they don't make the investigations public until there are fines involved. But if not, regulators should be looking into the influence that, you know, people like Elon Musk have on pricing of assets, and on the potential for average man in the street who is ignorant of, you know, potential to lose money purely because of the influence of one individual. Because, you know, there's nothing good about this, by the way. There's no way you can look at this and say there's something ethical or credible about what has happened. You know, to me, it's shocking. And a lot of people have lost money.
Just a last question regarding your being the chairperson of Sygnia now. Do you have a time frame on that, or do you?
No, look, you know, we own, I mean, between myself, my husband, family trust, we own, I think, 63.2% of Sygnia. And I've got absolutely no intention of selling any of our shares. And obviously, it's a big portion of our net worth, which we have created from the ground up. I think, you know, there are very few companies in South Africa where literally it was, you know, I mean, there are a few, Aspen, but, you know, where you had few people in the room, and we had no capital backing us. We had to mortgage our houses to start the company, took no salaries for the first 5 years. So Sygnia will always be my baby. And for as long as it is that, then I will remain involved. And as I said, I've got absolutely no intention of selling. I think, you know, Sygnia has a great future. We have, for the first time, you know, this year, started attracting a lot of retail investors to Sygnia. You know, so asset management companies go through an evolution. First, you get pension fund money, then the man in the street starts recognizing your brand and what you stand for and investing with you. And that is what we have seen with Sygnia in the last year, that suddenly the man in the street, the average man in the street, has woken up to what we stand for, which is, you know, low cost transparency, value for money. And we've started to attract, you know, huge volumes of investors moving their assets to us. So I think the future of Sygnia is bright, and I want to be part of that journey for as long as I can.
Thank you very much, Magda Wierzycka, the chairperson of Sygnia.
Absolute pleasure.